positions and streamline. Oh, we're recording. Okay. And streamline our government. And there is an increase in our emergency reserve. So that's all good. We're also, a big portion of the budget is also dedicated to healthcare. And that is critically important as well. What we don't like in his original budget is the funding shifts in environmental projects. He's got $68 million that's coming out of general fund. He's trying to tap into our Prop 4 bond, and that is not what voters voted to do. And one thing that's concerned me since I learned about it when I first got elected is we have a huge $20 billion in outstanding unemployment insurance loans. And what he was projecting in his budget is to just pay the interest on that, which is $634 million. And I'm feeling like we need to do a better effort at bringing down that loan. So it's things are changing day by day, if not minute by minute. We're planning on losing federal dollars for programs that fund Medi-Cal, public health, education, transportation, veteran services, and more. But here's the deal. I'm calling it federal funds, but it's actually our money. California is a donor state. So we generate more money in California that we give to the federal government that goes to running our nation and helping out other states than we get back. So I feel like that's a position of power that I hope we will continue to utilize. So our Assembly budget committees have just begun to meet and discuss, the governor's priorities, what our priorities are. I'm hearing loud and clear from my Democratic caucus in the Assembly that we are once again going to work our darndest to protect our most vulnerable in our communities. We don't want to make a cut that's going to send an individual or a family further into crisis, and really look at that return on investment. Pay now will save us later, and really being very thoughtful and strategic about how we go through the budget. And over the next couple months the Assembly budget subcommittees will hold upwards of 60 hearings, going by line in the budget, determining whether that matches our priorities, whether that's something that the communities can sustain, and then making our recommendations. And we're not going to go be easy on the administration. We are fired up and we are ready to fight. And we are going to question every proposal and demand justification on how every dollar is being spent. Assembly Democrats, our Speaker, Robert Rivas, who's from our region, has made it very, very clear that we need to focus on affordability in the state of California. We need to create communities where businesses can thrive, people can afford to live there and work there. They can afford to put groceries on their table. They can afford to turn their lights and their heat on. They can afford their insurance. There's so much that is coming down on Californians, and we need to make sure that we're addressing the affordability and cost of living, because it has just gone out of control. So we have been asked to do letters to our subcommittees regarding what funding we'd like to see in the budget, but also we need to be doing letters advocating for protection of programs, protections such as IHSS and Meals on Wheels and veteran programs that we want to make sure are safeguarded. So we'll be drilling down and working on those letters over the next couple of weeks here. So we were in a special session that was called around wildfire recovery, and we did a fund to basically $2.5 billion package that went into effect, that was passed with bipartisan support as a step in delivering billions in state funding for the wildfire response in Southern California and the recovery efforts, because we're trying to accelerate the cleanup of the impacted neighborhoods. Right now, as you can imagine, there is a lot of toxins on the ground from those fires, and it's not safe for people to be back in their homes if their home did survive. And so We want to make sure that we're dealing with the hazardous waste on the ground and ensuring that it's not getting into our waterways. And there's so much of the communities that have been impacted. It's not just the single family residences, but churches and schools and business districts that have been totally burned to the ground. Our Central Coast Caucus is planning a trip to go down to Southern California to tour the burn sites so we can learn and we can hear as far as what happened and how we can prevent something like that from happening again. We also passed legislation to set up a legal defense fund that allocates $25 million for our California Department of Justice, our Attorney General's office, to protect California taxpayers and the state's economy from the hostile actions that we're seeing coming out of Washington, including the plan to, fire federal workers and everything that they're trying to do. We also have money that we allocated for funding the Immigration Legal Aid Services organizations, which also assist veterans, students, renters, families, victims of domestic violence, and our law-abiding immigrants who pay more than $130 billion annually in state and federal taxes in our nation, with over $1 trillion yearly to the California economy. It is our immigrants' families provide so much to our communities, and the way they are being treated and targeted right now is just absolutely horrendous. And so we are doing everything in our power to protect them. And then, I guess one of the questions that was given to me was, what can you do as residents to combat and address what is happening in our federal government? And there's a lot you can do. I think first and foremost is living your daily lives, living them with joy, showing the authoritarians out there that this is not going to stop who we are and what we care about and what we want to work for. And so continue going about your day, go to school, go to work, care for your family members, volunteer, go out, enjoy dinner and have a glass of wine or a bottle of wine. Rest when you need to and take care of your physical and mental health. I know that I spend a little too much time, scrolling. There's my dog. And I have to put it down. I've actually set limits on my phone now where I can't do social media more than an hour a day, because you can just start spiraling down that hole. And it's better to, pick up a newspaper and read a newspaper, or pick up a book and get lost in a book, or go out for a walk and hang out with friends. So it's also important for us to focus on the things we can control and release the things that we cannot control. And I see a lot of people who will say things like, just fire Elon Musk. How hard can that be? Just fire him. Well, that's not something in our control. That is something that the president has hired. He's hired him. He's put him in a job, and that is not something that can be done by any other government official. So, and then find different pathways to organize. I mean, your North County Democratic Club is a great venue, a great place to organize, to have thought partners, to work collaboratively on how you want to protect and represent your region. And there's some great groups and organizations that we have in the Santa Cruz County area. There's the Welcoming Network that assists immigrant families, and the Diversity Center that protects our LGBTQ community and individuals and families. And I can't tell you how much it is, just breaks my heart to hear our transgender folks, 1%, a dinky amount of our population that is being targeted and ridiculed and othered and bullied to the point where, there's some trans kids now that are taking their own lives because they are just so targeted and so bullied and feel so hated. So anything we can do to protect and reach out and support our trans community, our LGBTQ community is critically needed at this point. Volunteer at Planned Parenthood, one of my favorite organizations. I was a member of the board when I first moved to Santa Cruz County, and just everything they do, not only for women's reproductive rights, but for senior health care and men's health care and mental health care. And they do so much to keep us healthy in our communities. You know, engaging with moderate Republicans as well. I actually went to a dinner last night, and it was education focused, and we had one Republican with us, and we started getting into what's happening in our country, and just hearing from him and his thought process and what he feels about what's happening in our country was hopeful for me. He's I don't know if I would say he's a moderate Republican, but he's a reasonable Republican. He has he believes in this country. He believes in the power of working together, and he believes that that we will get through this. And he does not support many of the policies and cutbacks and actions being taken by the new president. So that was uplifting to me, hearing from him, and even knowing that we are going to disagree on policy, but he's somebody that I could text, I could talk to, I could have a civil conversation with, and that is a bright light in this world right now. And when you see injustice, speak up. Please speak up. Silence allows oppression to thrive, and your voice has the power to inspire change. So please do everything you can to speak up when you see injustice happening in our neighborhoods. And remember that we're all here to be helpers. You know, I think of the, Mr. Rogers in the neighborhood, and his mother telling him to, in dire, horrific times, to look for the helpers. And I think about that in these times, and I do find it. When you are looking, you can see people out there that are doing good and giving back and speaking out. So it's critically important that we do that. And, you know, just brace yourself. We have a lot of work ahead of us. I know for me, the last 4 weeks have been horrific and hard, and I feel like I've lived through more than a year's time in this 1 month period. And we have got to pace ourselves. We have got to understand that this is a marathon. We are in it for the long haul. And you know, and like I said, there are bright things that are happening in our world. You know, we experienced disasters in our county. Many of you have personally lived through them. And of course, in December, we had those 30-year swells that came in and took out 200 feet of our Santa Cruz Wharf and destroyed our harbor. And the good news there is that I'd been lobbying the Office of Emergency Services and contacting the governor's office and advocating for a state disaster declaration. And that finally came through on Friday. So our county will get 75% of our expenses covered through the state support. And that's going to be a huge help to rebuild our harbor and rebuild our wharf. And I know, and I hear it all the time, that when we're talking about our Southern California fires, and when I'm in meetings with my caucus, the governor's office, that Nancy Ward, the director of Office of Emergency Services, I always raise my hand and I say, hey, just want to talk about the CZU fire area in my district. This is something that happened in 2020. Out of the 697 residences that were burned down in that fire, only 127 have been rebuilt. Another 134 are permitted and are waiting to get rebuilt. But that is a far cry from returning that part of our beloved county back to where it was. And to remind them that rebuilding takes time, and that everything that we're doing to streamline processes in Southern California, we need to bring it here in Santa Cruz County as well, and streamline those who are continuing to want to rebuild their homes here in Santa Cruz County. So we are going to be continuing to work with our county, our incredible county supervisor, Monica Martinez, and work on doing everything we can to continue to help the survivors of our CZU fire. And today in our Democratic caucus, we were fortunate to have Insurance Commissioner Lara present. And I'm working with his office right now as well to put together a webinar and probably something by Zoom and maybe something in person, talking about the homeowners insurance crisis that we have experienced in California, and particularly in Santa Cruz County, and especially in the San Lorenzo Valley. So with all of our beauty, it is disaster prone, and whether it's the fire or the floods and the atmospheric rivers, you all have been through absolute hell and back. And I'm hopeful. There's actually been a year that the insurance commissioner has taken to develop regulations and catastrophic modeling. And we are starting to see insurance companies coming back to California and writing policies. So, for example, Mercury is an insurance company that is the first company back writing policies in paradise. So he is hopeful about where we're going with the insurance crisis and trying to turn that around. He does not think that, excuse me, that the Southern California fires are going to scare insurance companies away. And he reminded us that California is the #1 market for insurance in our nation, and we are #4 in the world. So California is where people want to be, and our insurance companies want to be back and writing insurance policies for us so people can get off the FAIR plan, which does not provide comprehensive coverage, as you know, and costs so much more. And then you have to get your supplemental coverage as well. So we will continue to work on this. Like I said, down the road, we're going to be conducting these webinars and meetings around the insurance issue and finding those reasonable and affordable solutions for everyone. So I welcome your thoughts, your questions, and great to see everybody out there.
Okay, we're gonna have people come up this way and ask questions. So you're gonna have to speak over here, or I have to repeat your question.
So what do I talk into?
It's this microphone. So just talk right there.
Like, okay, can you hear me?
A little louder.
Okay, can you
there
hear
you go.
me?
Yes, that's good.
I want to say we've met before at a constituent meeting in like Palo Alto, I think it was, but you mentioned about the housing crisis and affordability, and I think it's a big issue because I think that just big picture, if Democrats want to win back the country, we need to prove that Democrat-run states are well run. And following that line of thought, I feel like, especially looking at, I know this is federal level, but like Senator Padilla's new housing plan, and the same way a lot of them seem to work is that it's just like throwing money at the problem, subsidizing things. But I feel like the real issue is that we're in a huge housing supply debt in California, in large part because of things like there are a lot of regulations and barriers to construction that seem like they make sense, but then in reality, they just block a lot of construction. For example, this is a county rule, but it's the example that I know of is I'm in the CZU fire zone. My house thankfully survived, but today half of my neighbors' houses could not be rebuilt if they burned down, according to current county rules, because in unincorporated areas, they need to be at least 20 feet away from the road, I believe is the rule.
So what's the question?
And so basically I just wanted to emphasize in the legislature the need to push for like these sort of solutions that are involved more than just putting money to the problem or housing, like requiring developers to have a certain amount of housing that is low income, or I'm just pushing for more, just making it easier to build more housing. I know Santa Cruz is doing a really good job lately, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think I got most of that. It kind of faded in and out. So, but yes, needing to build more housing, and I don't think are you from Santa Cruz? Thought I heard Kern. Did I hear Kern?
I'm in the CZ northern Santa Cruz. So
okay. So yes, I think that the state had to step in when jurisdictions were not building the housing we were needing. And so the state did a number of laws to basically incentivize and provide for more opportunities for housing to be built. And jurisdictions like Santa Cruz has done an incredible job of building housing near downtowns, near transit, building housing that is green and environmentally sensitive and electric kinds of energy use as well. So, I think that we've done a really good job with that, but yes, we do need to do, I'm always concerned about, are we building the right housing for the people that need it? So do we have a lot of very, very low income people that, yes, these great new structures that are being built, they still can't afford it, so I'm concerned about making sure that we're building the right housing in the right place for the people that need it. And anything that the state can do to remove barriers, they are all in and ready to do it. So if you have some ideas, I'd be happy to hear those, or you can share them with Christina in the office. But we're constantly looking at ways that we can help bring about more housing opportunities. I'm also this year, my legislative package, because we're looking at affordability and because Santa Cruz County and Santa Cruz specifically is some of the highest rents anywhere in the nation, I've got a number of bills that I'm introducing to protect renters and to make their lives a little bit better. So one bill, for example, I'm doing is, if you are a renter and you had to submit your security deposit via Venmo, so you had to submit your $4,000 or $5,000 to your landlord via Venmo to get into your apartment. When you are ready to leave and move out of that apartment, maybe you're going to get a bigger place, or you're moving in with a partner, or you're moving to another city, that security deposit has to be returned to you in that same way. So if you Venmoed it to them, they have to Venmo it back, because what we were hearing is a lot of renters were having to wait 30 to 60 days to get a check in the mail for that security deposit that they had to send overnight to their landlord. So we're just trying to get some equity there and give them those much needed funds so they can get into their next housing. So housing's a big issue, and love to talk more with you about it.
Let me fix something. Thank you. Hang tight for just a second, Assembly member. Let me see if I can make something so you can actually.
I'm trying to see if I could turn it up here. I know mine's not full blast.
Stop it. So here. Can you see what microphone that says? That one.
Webcam.
Yep. Okay, can you hear better?
That's better, yes.
Okay, great.
Hi, Gail. It's Glenn.
Hi, Glenn.
So back on the insurance subject, right? I understand that there are various efforts to get insurers back into California. These things will take time. In the meantime, we get more and more disasters, and the way that any insurance company can survive is by balancing the low risk against the high risk. And what's going on now is that all of us who are high risk, including us here in the Valley, are assigned to FAIR. And eventually there are going to be enough claims where FAIR can't respond. And so what happens when FAIR goes bankrupt?
Well, we're actually stepping in right now to do legislation to help make sure that doesn't happen. So I forgot what he told me as far as what we have there, but let me see if I have the number. Anyway, yeah. So we have a bill this year to basically protect FAIR Plan, and of course the insurers pay into the FAIR Plan, and all that is happening right now. But he was saying that the FAIR Plan assessment hadn't been done for over 30 years. So that needs to be done as well. But he was hopeful, and I was feeling pretty hopeful after listening to him, is that these insurance companies are coming back to California now and are starting to write policies. So I'm hopeful in the next 6 months to a year that we're going to see a shift, and because those regulations and his sustainable insurance plan just got finished at the end of December, so it really hasn't had a lot of time to to get out there and do the changes that we're hoping to have happen here in California.
Yeah, because they're sure not coming back to the valley.
Right, not yet. I know. And I raised that today. I specifically raised that with him today in caucus, and he heard me and he said that, yeah, and he's all in to do a workshop with us, and we can hopefully get more answers then.
Right, thank you.
But we're going to stay on it and continue to lobby the insurance commissioner to do everything possible to bring back insurance carriers to the San Lorenzo Valley.
Thank you. Hello, Gail. This is Michael Schulman. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service in these difficult times. I'm going to get a little whiplash. I'm going to come back to housing.
Okay.
And builder's remedy. We're starting to see, our first couple of projects in the area, well-intended law to make sure we, permit things that should be permitted, but there's a little bit of consternation about some of the mismatches of what's being proposed in certain areas versus what's around it. And I'm just wondering, is there any discussion? Is there any legislation pending that might maybe swing the pendulum back just a little bit for local control so these issues can be managed?
Sounds like you've been eavesdropping in my office this week. So yes, I've actually been in conversations with several cities, Scotts Valley, Los Gatos, Montesrino. My Assembly District 28 is unique in a lot of ways, where we do have these smaller towns, and there's issues around traffic and infrastructure, and most importantly as well is fire safety and prevention. And a lot of folks, San Lorenzo Valley, there's one way in and one way. When the roads are down or there's a fire, evacuation is extremely concerning and extremely scary. So I think we need to be looking at all of these issues that impact some of our more rural, smaller cities. And I'm absolutely looking at different ways to get more local control and influence over design, density, affordability requirements. So that's definitely something that I'm starting to have discussions with folks about. I'm not sure if our housing committee is ready for them, but we're starting to have those discussions. I know the city of Santa Cruz had a bill proposal that we just got yesterday, and I'm kind of already maxed out, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it, but I think it's starting to do exactly what you're saying.
Thank you. Keep up the good discussions.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Any more? Oh, going? Oh, we have one more question. We're gonna do one. Actually, two more questions. We're gonna have two more questions, and then that's gonna be the end.
Okay.
My question is, hello, and thank you for your time, is regarding you mentioning California is a donor state, and that gives us certain power. Can you elaborate a little bit on how that power might be used in the current situation?
Well, the fact is that our taxpayers generate more revenue that we then give to the federal government, and then we get back less than what we gave. So now the laws are very clear about how we have to pay our federal taxes, and there's programs that we need to pay to the federal government. So, but we're not seeing a lot of law-abiding, constitutional-abiding leaders in DC. And so my thought is that we need to play a little bit more on the offense on this. And, like today, there was a threat that was put out that any school that is doing any kind of teaching in the DEI area would not be funded and by the federal government. And I think, California's gonna be pushing back on that. We're going to be fighting back on that. And maybe there's some ways that we can keep the money that we generate here. But that's for our better financial minds than mine. I'm just kind of, saying that I think being a donor state puts us in a position of power versus Wyoming, which is a state that doesn't that generates less revenue than they get back into their state to maintain all the programs that they maintain to help out their state. So I think that puts us in a good negotiating position.
Yeah,
And we're also the 5th largest economy in the world. And so I just feel like the United States of America needs California more than California needs the United States of America.
But I'm assuming we don't have the power to keep some of those tax dollars here to fund programs being cut at the federal level, like the ones that you just mentioned.
Well, I think, we do have we have allocated the money to our Attorney General's office, and he has been filing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit when the president oversteps what he's legally allowed to do. So I think they're going to be paying very close attention to that. But I think it's just a good negotiating position to be in. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Gail. It's Linda Kerner.
Hello.
Hi. So first of all, just an FYI related to the insurance issue. Yesterday morning, I had a knock at my door, and there was a man standing with a camera, and he said, "I'm here from your homeowner's insurance company, and I'm going to be taking some pictures of your house. Would that be okay?" And of course, what am I going to say? So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that my homeowner's insurance company is happy with the pictures they took. I had nice flowers in my flower boxes on my back deck. I hope they like those. But my more important question to you, and so I'm very interested in the workshop that you talked about having, or town hall related to the insurance problems. So I'm sure you'll be getting information, your staff will be getting information out to us when that happens, because I think that would be very helpful for a lot of your constituents. But a question I'd like to ask you, I know you have a big pot of money set aside to fight back against a lot of the efforts that the Trump administration is trying to do to take away people's rights. But what is one of your biggest worries that you think we may have some difficulty fighting back on, and that we might not win?
Good question. I'm really worried about the funding for healthcare, especially for our seniors, our veterans. I'm extremely concerned about what's happening with organizations like USAID, where that's impacting people today if they're not getting the food and medicine and aid that they are counting on. And people are going to lose their lives over this. There is going to be a lot of pain and suffering as a result of some of these decisions. And I think that toll is going to be felt more in the countries that we're providing aid to, and our most vulnerable communities as well. We're already seeing people being deported. And some of these folks, these are not hardened criminals. I am all about, yes, if you are somebody that's committed a felony or a violent crime, you absolutely do not deserve to be here. But if you are someone who has been here for 30 years, working and contributing to your community, and you have one violation in your history, or really your only violation is that you came into this country illegally, that should not be reason to deport you and break up a family and basically ruin somebody's life. So it is heart-wrenching to hear the stories. And I did hear about the story where a trans child took their own life because of the fear they had about the hatred and rhetoric and horrible things people are saying out and around them. So, this is going to take a real huge toll. And it's, my daughter, just getting medication that people are needing, that are being questioned now, as far as, let's say, antidepressants, and if those are cut off, I think big pharma is too big to have that happen, but there's a lot of threats out there that are looming. The threats to our educational systems. there was a program that got cut because it had talked about students in transition, and these students in transition are kids with developmental and physical disabilities, and helping them transition into a regular school environment, or perhaps an adult life where they are getting a job and finding a place to live, and helping them through these transitions. And the chaos going on with Doge, they just saw the word transition and thought transgender and put that on the chopping block. So there's a lot of horrific things happening, and we can't stop it all. And that's what's really hard to live with and to think about, and it keeps me up at night.
Well, I would just want to remind you that you're our local gal and we're a local club. And if there's anything that we as a club can do when with a particular issue where you feel that you need more support, please let us know, and we'll make some noise and get letters out and do whatever we can do to support you in what you're doing for us. And we thank you so much for being in Sacramento and working so hard for us.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, I think that's gonna wrap it up. A big cheer for Gail Pellerin. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good evening.
Yep, you too. Thanks. Bye.